Hello.
Hello.
Debs, you exist. You're back.
I do. Yes. Yes.
Oh, and you're looking so suave and cool and sophisticated as ever.
Like a bad penny. Yeah.
No. Chris and I would never be caught on camera saying that.
Well, yes. Yeah. If you only heard, viewers, what they said before about.
No. The viewer knows that we're far too kind for that. But there we are.
It's lovely to see you both.
But are you feeling rested and well?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Thank you. I'm very.
David and I are going to have a real rest and just listen to what Deb's got to say.
Oh dear.
Yeah, with the usual, we won't get a word in edgeways, Chris.
Yeah.
So we're okay. There we are. So it's been a busy week as ever. I've been looking for graves of a former England rugby international.
Oh.
I've got one of those in Symmetry.
I had an email from a man in Melbourne, not in Derbyshire, but in Australia, and he's trying to record, possibly for a book, all of the final resting places of anybody who's played international rugby, and he discovered that a man called Richard Kindersley, who played for England in 1882 to 1885, was buried in Beaminster.
Ooh.
I've buried England Rugby International in Simsbury Churchyard, so there's one there as well.
Oh, well, let me have his name, and I'll let this guy know. He can email you.
Yeah, I'll have to go through my records and have a look.
Yeah, let me know, because he would be really keen to know. He's trying to literally do a complete history of where everyone is laid to rest. And he's coming over in June, so I could get him to come and pop down to the churchyard and have a look. However, that was interesting. A bit different amongst all the other things as we do. Lots of school meetings.
Well, I had a nice walk in your parish yesterday. I had a walk in Netherbury. It was very nice.
It's very nice in
Netherbury. Permission?
No, I didn't get permission, and I parked outside the church as well.
You're very welcome to do so, Deb. Everybody else does. You're very welcome to do so.
It was a very muddy walk, but it was lovely.
It's very muddy. I was going to say, if you'd have taken the one path which comes down through the churchyard and out, it eventually brings you back into Beaminster.
Yeah, we didn't do that. We went over the hill. It was lovely. Had a really nice walk.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
It was good. No, it's good. It's been very, very wet in Netherbury. They had a lot of flooding. I don't think many buildings as such, but certainly a lot of the roads and lands have been flooded over the last month or so. Yeah,
I did notice that you had something across the church door.
Yeah, well, the church is always flooded all the time I've been here. Not all the time, but if there's been excessive rain. And there's been a great debate going on amongst members of the church as to how is the best way to stop this. The church warden, who is a former surveyor and architect who knows about drains, because he's actually given defence evidence in court about the value, the success of drainage and whatever, was poo-pooed by somebody else who just wanted to stick those things on the gate.
Poo-pooed?
Yeah, literally. So it's been a great debate about flooding in Netherbury around the church. There we are. All good. All is good. And Chris, what have you been up to? Did you put your balls into a sack and pick them out on Sunday? On Saturdays, you were telling us last week.
How can I comment on a question like that on a programme like this?
Well, you did say, didn't you? And I did say figuratively speaking when you told me that thing.
Yeah, no, there is. It was a thing called the ball game at a game of golf where you pick up a golf ball, put it in a hat, and then you draw the balls out, and that's who plays.
Oh, right.
The team.
Was that a success for you?
Yeah, it was okay. It was okay. It wasn't a bad day.
That's where Brian is now, on the golf course.
On the golf course.
To be retired.
I know. Yeah, and he won a little trophy last weekend.
Devon.
Last weekend, that was the champion of champions, wasn't it?
Well, he didn't win that, I don't think.
Well, that was the competition he was playing in. Everybody who won something.
Yeah, well, he won something. Yeah.
Well, there we are. All this good stuff.
But he's always saying how amazing you are, Chris.
I was eligible to take part in the champion of champions because I hadn't won anything.
Yeah, well, you're bubbling under though, aren't you?
He's waiting for selection for the Open Championship or something, is Chris. So okay.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. No, it's busy with funerals at the moment, as with everything else, everybody else.
Yeah, I have a funeral later today. I've got a PCC meeting in a short while, so once we finish this, I'm dashing off to Top Forum.
Which is worse?
Well, I'm not quoting because there may be people who are going to both watching. So there we are.
That's unusual for you.
Yeah, I know which way my bread is buttered, as they say, Devon. You have to be quiet occasionally. Believe it or not,
holding his opinion.
I can be diplomatic at times. You know that. There we are.
Well, that's a good headline. He can be diplomatic.
At times.
You say that about our politicians.
I can be. But there we are. All is good, I think. Well, there was, dear viewer, a discussion earlier between the three of us as to which reading we were going to take today. The good Reverend Debs and most of the Bridport team, though not all it transpires, are going to be celebrating the presentation of Christ in the Temple, which you know from last week is called Candlemas alternatively, or the set reading for this week, which you would have heard at Christmas. And Debs very graciously gave way because she didn't think you'd want to hear about Candlemas again.
No, and also technically I'm in the wrong, although I think really it should have been this week because
I would agree. We had this very debate last week because I'd made a complete and utter horlicks of an article in our parish magazine for February. So a lot of people may turn up in Beaminster expecting them to be celebrating Candlemas. I'll divert them to you.
Yeah. Didn't I hear there was a vacancy at the Liturgical Society for the group of people that set these dates?
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't think Deborah I would qualify with this. With this.
Well, if anyone out there would rather celebrate Candlemas, it's at 10 o'clock at St. Swithin's. That's the only place we're doing it because we're having.
Oh, there we are. A good place. And will you have the parade of candles at the end?
Yes, definitely.
Well done.
And incense?
Well, no, we would always have incense at St. Swithin's, except when it's a parish service, because it's too much for some people. And so when it's a parish service, when we all get together, we don't use incense, which is sad for those who like incense. But for those who don't, we just want to welcome them in. So, yeah, we're not having incense, but we are having lots of candles.
Can you just burn a bonfire outside in the garden?
Yeah, we probably could do that. Yeah.
But it is called Candlemas and not Incense-mas.
Yeah. So we're going heavy on the candles.
You could have scented candles. That could kind of bridge the gap.
That's true. That is true. Yeah.
Have scented candles, vanilla, whatever, magnolia and something else, walnut or whatever they are. I don't know. There we go.
Yeah, patchouli is what I like.
I like patchouli. Go with that. I like that. That's very rock and roll, isn't it? And denim.
It's a bit old hippie, isn't it? Really.
A bit hippie, yeah. There we go. So the day has been won after the brief pause with 1 John, and I'll read it, and I'm going to read it from the Good News Bible for a change, only because I got the Good News Bible to take to school yesterday, to read from for the children, and there we are. Let's have a pause. So the prologue from John's Gospel, chapter 1. In the beginning, the Word already existed. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. From the very beginning, the Word was with God. Through him, God made all things. Not one thing in all creation was made without him. The Word was the source of life, and this life brought light to humanity. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has never put it out. God sent his messenger, a man named John, who came to tell people about the light, so that all should hear the message and believe. He himself was not the light. He came to tell about the light. This was the real light, the light that comes into the world and shines on everyone. The Word within the world, and though God made the world through him, yet the world did not recognize him. He came to his own country, but his own people did not receive him. Some, however, did receive him and believed in him. So he gave them the right to become God's children. They did not become God's children by natural means, that is, by being born as the children of a human father. God himself was their father. The Word became a human being and full of grace and truth, lived among us. We saw his glory, the glory which he received as the Father's only Son. Oh, the quick year, back to Christmas already again.
Oh, or preparation for next Christmas.
Could be. Could be.
Well, the bit that struck me in the good news reading there was it seemed to highlight that bit in verse 12 about all the people who received him. He gave power to become the children of God.
Yeah.
So we're not children because of our birthright. We're actually children because we believe in God. And everybody who believes in God has this opportunity to become children of God just by believing in Jesus. I know that might sound very central to the Christian faith, but it is. We still get some people who think that because of where they're born or the family they're born into, they're automatically children of God. But that's a statement that requires an active belief in God.
And you get the converse where people think I'm beyond the pale and I could never have that grace because of my birth or because of my personality or whatever it is. I think people feel they're not in. There's the in crowd, isn't there? There's a sense of that often.
Yeah, and I think
I was going to say that would very much be Paul's understanding of being children by God's grace or through God's grace, wouldn't it?
Mm.
It is. I mean, it's a huge part of our message that, like you say, because we all meet people that think they're so desperate, so beyond redemption, so beyond any help, so undeserving, yet all have been given the power to become children of God. And that's part of the message that we say every day. And a number of times I hear people telling me, oh, I'm not good enough to go to church.
Yeah.
But actually, we go to church because we're not good enough.
Mm.
And God receives us. And it's a big message and an important part. But exciting because, like you say, we can treat everybody equally. We can treat everybody with love. We can accept everybody without fear or favour, or are able to become children of God.
Well, Chris, you said it all, really. Even Devon didn't get much chance to speak. I mean, it is a beautiful reading. And if we're not careful, we do overdo it because we read it so many times at carol services, don't we, at Christmas? Mm-hmm. And so by the time we get to the fifth or sixth carol service, we're kind of into automatic mode. We don't perhaps put enough thought into those words. And you're right about that chapter, that verse 12. It does stick out, particularly in the translation of the Good News Bible. And I remember certainly just as I was, starting to think about going forward for ordination, the Good News Bible was the thing everybody was reading, and particularly for children, because it's meant to be easier to understand. I don't think it's any easier to understand. You've got to get your mind into a different way of reading the Bible, because the words may be simpler, but they're still as deep and theologically important as ever they were, aren't they?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, the thing that stuck out for me when you read it just then, because it's a different translation, was the word was a human being.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of, I mean, in the versions we often read, we don't read that. And
No.
the whole thing, and also the very beginning, the word already existed.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of trying to get over that idea, because when you're used to reading it in the translations we often use, which are more poetic, and I do love, you can sort of, because they're so familiar, or they are to us. I know they're not familiar to everybody, but you can sort of say, yeah. But those words, they jar a little bit, but they make you think about what you're hearing. Already existed. You know, the idea that before the world began, Jesus in God already existed. The idea that, you know, Jesus was born, but Jesus was already part of the world.
It's that wonderful statement, God was, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and that's the one thing it takes a lot of thinking of. Before anything else, God was.
Yeah.
And however you understand. Sorry, Chris.
I say I think the amazing part then, I don't know how old I was, probably about 40, having read this passage so many times before I realised that Jesus was the one that created the world. And that's what the first verse of John's Gospel says.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
it's you know, Matthew goes back through the genealogy of Jesus through the Jewish people.
Yep.
Mark just says the beginning of the good news. I can't remember the beginning of Luke, but that's part of the story of Jesus and Mary and Zechariah and things. Whereas John just hits you with, right, the world started because of God. God was Jesus, and Jesus came to earth. And
Yeah.
Jesus made the earth. It's just a stunning statement, really.
But I guess that's why our Trinitarian foundation is so important, because we can get ourselves in knots over it. I remember when I was studying theology at college, reading Moltmann and, you know, the crucified God,
God, yeah.
and, you know, Jesus, God being on the cross, you know, because we're very literal people, we like to say, this is the Holy Spirit over there, that's God, and that's Jesus. And he does that. And, you know, the idea of that eternal dance, and the fact that, you know, it's about relationship, and, you know, God, you know, where do they begin and end? You know, their ways of understanding who God is, but it gets your mind fizzing. But the idea of the crucified God kind of, you know, because there's a whole load of stuff about atonement which I find very difficult, you know, like God, you know, sacrificed his son, you know, it sounds really brutal. But when you think about God on the cross, God in Christ, I think that transformed a lot for me.
And yeah, and I think for, you know, as you're going to be looking at the presentation, which ends Christmas but helps us to look towards Easter, that's a good thought to have in mind, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, that's what we're looking towards, God on the cross.
Yeah.
Because without that, we can't have that joy of Easter Day and the resurrection, new life, with new life into Christ's new world or new life or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, we are going to have the procession at the end with the candles. And what I love in that responsory is, you know, you're talking about, you know, sort of you're on that journey, and this is we're ending our celebration of the Nativity, and we're going forward towards the journey of Lent towards the cross, and connecting up God, you know, knowing, I guess the liturgical year is very helpful, I think, because you're always connecting up our experiences of God with our life and how we move. And but I quite like processions and things, because they help you kind of work out what you believe in a physical sort of tangible way, because I'm quite simple, probably.
No, no. I think it is and it's also about journeying, isn't it? And and it is the journey from the end of Christmas to the cross and resurrection on Easter Day. That's where we're trying to get to a point of understanding that we're always journeying as followers in Christ, aren't we?
Yeah.
Journeying in one way or another.
Yeah.
Which is all very, very good.
Well, glad to have you back, Deb. You've really got us thinking again.
Oh, Chris, that's nice. I just witched on as usual.
I find it very dangerous having to think this time in the morning, but there we are, Deb. You did it. You did a marvellous job as ever. So that's really good. And where is Polly? She's not there today.
Well, she's gone over to the sofa and she's curled up in a little ball. She was on my lap earlier, but she thought, well, I'm just going to get ridicule from those two, so she hiked it up.
We like to see the pair of you together. It's always with a happy scene.
Yes.
Well, there we are, dear viewer, and we hope that kind of helps to clarify something from last week and put something into perspective going forward. And we're in that kind of strange time of 2 weeks where we go back to green before we start. Except you'll be wearing white, of course, on Sunday.
Yes, I'm out of step with everyone as usual.
Bridport's allowed to be out of step. It's that kind of place, isn't it? It's a good place to be. And you were saying earlier, Deb, that you're going to meet up with the person who's going to be your new colleague.
Yes, so Callie is coming over in a little while before she heads back to her current parish. So Callie is going to be joining us. Her licensing is on the 11th of April, just after Easter. And we're really looking forward to that. And she's going to be a great addition and part of our team. So she's called Callie Birch and she's going to be our team vicar here in Bridport.
Excellent. We look forward to working with her.
Yeah.
And we've got coming up in a couple of weeks' time the shortlisting for the vacancy for the rector of the Bride Valley team.
Right.
It'll be good. And I've now got dates for the advertising and shortlisting eventually, more towards the summer, for the Golden Cap as well. So that we hope that one day we will be absolutely full again. I think it's happened for a few weeks in my 14 years. We've had everybody in.
Yeah. No, it's we'll be a changed deanery, won't we?
We will. And Chris will be trying to no doubt get whoever comes, new people, to join him on the golf course to carry his caddy.
Yeah.
He's gone very quiet.
Relaxation.
Oh, you're still there, are you, Chris? I thought you'd gone. There we are. Well, there we are. So, dear viewer, thanks so much. Thanks to Harry again, as ever, for making sense of whatever we say. He'll find a wonderful title, I'm sure, for us. And we're very grateful for that. And as we always say by now, you know how to find us because you're watching it. So there we are. Any information you want to know about anything in the Lyme Bay Deanery, just look on the various websites. They're very informative.
Yep.
And they'll tell you all about us. If you want to know about dead rugby players, I'll try and find some more out by next week. We'll go from there for you.
Well, good to see you both again.
And you too, Debs. And have a good day. Please take it steady. Don't rush into it. No. And take it steady. And Chris, thanks very much for all you do and for setting this up. And we look forward to meeting again next week.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.